Hello and welcome to episode 517 of Morelia Python Radio Herp History. And in this episode, we are joined by the one and only Tom Crutchfiled. We also have Keith McPeak hanging out with us. We talk about the history of the reptile hobby as Tom sees it and how he has evolved in both his keeping and his understanding of reptiles over the years. So let's get into it. Welcome to Morelia Python Radio.
Welcome to another episode of Morelia Python Radio. This is Herp History. We're talking to Mr. Tom Crutchfield, a man that needs no introduction in the world of reptiles. If he does, you haven't been in it long enough and you're not been paying attention. So I think we'll jump right in because there's no point in kind of messing around with Tom. Welcome to MPR, and we wanted to start with how you got started into reptiles. Like, can you kind of just give us a brief overview of that?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me. It's wonderful to be here. And second of all, I can't remember really not loving reptiles. My earliest memories from home, I was born in Marietta, Florida, North Florida, in 1949. At that time, the attitudes towards reptiles were, for instance, there were no pet reptiles in the U.S. much except for fairs and snake shows and zoos, roadside attractions. Nobody kept snakes because everyone hated snakes. So immediately, when I was very young, I was very attracted to dinosaurs. And then after the closest thing to a dinosaur are crocodilians. And man, I had alligators living near me, so I love them. And then Woolworth's Dime Store used to sell baby caiman and little baby Amazon river turtles, Putacnemus expansa and Putacnemus Phyllis, mostly, and they paint the shells. You almost never saw native turtles then. They all were from mostly Peru and Brazil. Mm-hmm. So, but what really changed my life was when I was 5 or 6 years old and turned over that rock in my yard and found a ringneck snake. And I thought that was absolutely the most beautiful snake I'd ever seen. I could see the sun hit part of its coils, and it had that sheen and that little ring around the neck. Mm-hmm. It flipped its tail up, and I didn't have any idea what it was doing, but I didn't feel like it was dangerous at all, even though I was very young. So I went and got a jar, took a stick and put it in the jar, and of course my grandmother saw it, went crazy, killed the snake. And but it never stopped, and I wound up with them letting me even keep venomous snakes starting at age 16. I caught my first venomous snake at 12. I met behind the neck, Eastern Diamondback. My mother brought home 2 alligators. She was a waitress at the bus station. Brought in 2 baby alligators where they killed the mother. And I had been buying caiman, and every winter they would drown because the water got cold. I'm probably 9 or 10 then. And when I had those 2 baby alligators and I made them a nice enclosure outside, they didn't die. And I kept those until actually I left home at 18 years old, and they went to Ross Allen's, and they were 7. Well, the male was 9 feet long, 2 females were 7 or 8. Wow. I had an entire young life in my backyard in big, terrible handmade ponds with tin fences that we all built for. And turtles, too. I had alligator sapper as long as I had them, but I caught myself a big one.
So was it more of like, I mean, we're trying to like plug in what it was like back then versus what it is now. Was it more of DIY, you catch the animal and then you have to build everything and do all the provisions and providing yourself?
There were no cages.
Yeah.
None. Until Ross Allen made these, and Wilfred T. Neal designed these little simple sliding front cages so the glass slides front on little grooves. It's at a slant like an old vivarium looking thing.
Yeah.
With that particle board on the back with holes in it for ventilation. Mm-hmm. And like $10, and then they were selling them around, but those were terrible. You couldn't keep anything bigger in it than a ringneck snake much, but
right.
People did otherwise, just like they do today. So
go beyond what is recommended. Yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
very really below what is recommended.
Right. Yeah. Please don't do this. And they do it.
5-foot rat snake in a 2-foot by 18-inch cage is 18 inches tall. It's pretty tough. It's kind of like putting a retic in a vision cage.
And that happens all the time. But yeah. Yep.
It's considered normal, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah. So back then, you kind of start keeping the reptiles, and I know that right now, obviously the stigma for reptile keeping has shifted, but we still get told that we're absolute crazy people for having snakes. Back then, when it was really not common, were you
not
just
like
the town loco kind of a guy? Like,
I know I was a crazy guy that later on changed into a lot of respect with my schoolmates. Because a lot of them, I taught them about reptiles, and believe it or not, I'm still friends with a lot of them today. I mean, Stacy and I and Mindy just took a road trip to my 55th high school graduation, and one of my buddies gave me his Airbnb on Merritt's Mill Pond on a first magnitude spring, like Silver Springs, like you go to on vacation. But imagine that private. And, and they all love reptiles now, but back then they didn't. But as I grew up in school and they saw me with snakes, well, what really changed everybody in Marietta, a lot of people in Marietta like snakes better than other places, but the older people, because in high school in the 1960s, I graduated in 67, there were no summer jobs, basically. There was no tourists where we were, so it was all agriculture. So you either had to work in the tobacco barns or load watermelons usually for 50 cents an hour. Think about that. All the time you want. That's $4 a day. That's $20 a week. And in the tobacco barns, you're 3 stories off the ground, straddling beams with dry tobacco leaves. It's 120 degrees, and you can only be the guys on the top for 30 minutes because you might pass out and fall and get killed. And as kids, all of us kids at 16 more, we got on buses, and that's what we did. But Snakeatorium, I knew sold snakes, and they paid 25 cents a foot for cottonmouths, $1 a foot for eastern diamondback rattlesnakes, 50 cents a foot for corn snakes and gray rat snakes, and 50 cents each for medium water snakes, and 75 cents for great big water snakes. Well, in the dry season, I could go out when everything's drying up in April and May and June and catch 100 cottonmouths any night I want to go out. It averaged 2 to maybe 3 feet long, which is about $1, $1.50, which means I was bringing in like $600 or $700 a week and living like high man. I didn't have a car. I had no money, but my buddies had cars, and they were happy as shit. Getting that car, take me out snake hunt, hold my bags, and do what I wanted to do. They put it on gas.
Yeah, it was either that or pass out at 130 degrees.
Not only that, at 17 or 18, we then got to make a trip to Panama City every weekend in the summer, which we got cash. Okay. And then we could buy alcohol, and my county was a dry county. And so we did. And so we had it was just a lot of fun. And in high school, they called me Gator because we were out on Cormac's Mill Pond. I don't know. I'd watch Ross Allen catch alligators underwater. And I had alligators anyway at that point. I had raised up. So I've never been afraid of anything. I've never really been hurt by anything either much. And so there was this 8 or 9 foot alligator. We shined its eyes, and they were real wary in those days, scared because people still hunted them. And it sunk to the bottom, and I dove in. I didn't even say anything. Just dove in and swam down, got it by the jaw, wrapped my legs around it. A good swimmer can hold their breath a lot longer than a crocodilian. If the croc's scared, like with you fighting it, real danger is a good swimmer. Like I could have held my breath in at least 4 to 5 minutes minimum. Okay. And sitting on the back of the alligator with the alligator doing work, I can hold it probably longer than that because I'm not working. With the gator, and the gator is capable of tremendous anaerobic capabilities, but it has no aerobic abilities at all. None of the reptiles do to store blood and keep going a long time. They can't do that very quick, so you can drown. So I just caught him, wrapped my legs around him. When he got tired, swam him up. I like to take his dog and put him in the boat, and then we just turned it loose, but it was just a joke. So then they called him Gator the rest of the time. That was my name. What?
There are worse nicknames out there. I mean, I think that's a good one. Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah.
I think they didn't want bad. They were afraid I'd throw alligator on them or something. I mean, a lot of people still are scared to death of snakes. Mm-hmm. But even there was one guy who used to give me snake eye, and he was freaking terrified of snakes. But man, he wanted that alcohol to go to Panama City, and if I couldn't get anybody else, he wasn't any good. I had to have him coat cottonmouth bags and stuff because he'd bump them against himself. He didn't think very good like a lot of the others that took me, and so I had to be careful with him a little bit. Couldn't let him go all the time. But man, he wanted to go so bad. He even scared. But everybody up there hated them, and really what I was told by everybody up there, other than one science teacher that had a great deal of influence on me called Miss Cox, it said that you should do something else, because learning a lot about reptiles like you do, you're never going to make anything out of yourself, son, doing that. That's what they told me.
It was nice of them, but
that's how it sort of began,
Yep.
Nutshell.
So mentors. I mean, you mentioned a couple of people. Did you have any real mentors that really kind of took you under their wing and kind of walked you through reptiles in the beginning?
Not per se. There were many of them, I never really felt like, and even today, I've never been one. I've always been a little bit different than any of the other herpetoculturists. I'm not like the zoo guys. I'm not an academic, although I've dabbled in all those things. I have friends in all those disciplines. It's just not me, at all. I've always kind of just done my own thing, I guess is the best way to put it, in my own realm. But the understanding of reptiles, I've learned so much from them. They taught me. Because I have, and still walk the walk rather than just think about stuff I did a long time ago. Because that doesn't matter. What matters, especially when you get older, is living in the now, which is only right now. Tomorrow and yesterday's gone. And enjoying it, and I enjoy doing this, so I'm not going to stop until I die.
If I can jump in, one thing that Tom's pointing out that I think is very important to new people to the hobby is a guy like Tom grew up in an area that was reptile abundant. So his first interactions were animals that he could see in the wild, I'm gathering, and learn from them and how they lived in the wild. And then think about, once you get that under your belt, how much easier it is to apply that to exotic animals as they're coming in, because now you have an understanding of the animals in your area and what they're doing, where I think a lot of kids today, they get into it and they just see this rare steak on the internet and they buy it and they don't have that natural understanding that Tom had growing up, seeing the animals in the wild,
Yeah.
And you were asking, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Okay, you were asking about mentors, and I got sidetracked. But really, there were a lot of the early herpetologists, but not one of them had a single huge effect on my life, like you asked.
Right.
Denny Seapool was a really good friend of mine, and that's who I sold the snakes to when I was in high school. Later on, I worked for him. And David Grove, the esteemed general curator emeritus at the Oklahoma City Zoo and curator of reptiles there that did so much for so long, he got his start working in Snakeatorium, too. So I just talked to him this morning. We're still close today. Ross Allen.
Yep.
I worked for Ross Allen some too, and I knew Ross Allen as he aged later in life pretty well. Bill Haast, I knew. I wouldn't call him a mentor, but I definitely learned more about handling cobras by watching him handle them than from anyone else. To the point that I could handle cobras at 19 or 20 years old. I mean, when I handle cobras, hold a full hooded cobra in his hand without worrying about getting bit. I mean, they may try to bite me, I don't be able to.
Yeah.
I've never been bit today, even still.
That's cool. I mean, it's to have that confidence. I would not. So
it's not bravery or confidence. Understand?
Yeah.
It's very hard to be afraid of that which you understand. And when that cobra spreads that hood and gives out that hiss, the average herpetoculturist puts his tail between his legs and starts and his hands shaking. Who cares? It's really all bluff, and if you understand the behavior, you can just put one hand like that, reach in with the other hand, pick the cobra up, and you put it in your hand. And it's focused on that hand, so unless it's in shed, you're never going to get bit. because it's an eye focus.
Right.
You see, most people don't learn about reptiles ethology to the ability that we do here. I mean, virtually all of our reptiles here are not only, like if you walk up to my cages, my tree monitors and all we breed, and there's only, I think, 3 out there that were captured that we did here, but all of them run up to the wire to see you when you walk out there. If you open the door, they'll jump out on your shoulder. So with our crop monitors, they'll immediately come out, and Bill won't even come out of the door unless you give him permission. And he likes to walk around the yard. He's 8.5 feet long. And the venomous snakes don't try to bite us or defend because we don't scare them. We never scare them. If they don't want to do something, we don't make them do it. We manipulate them into doing what we're doing without fighting them. There's no point in it. The time for fighting reptiles is over to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I from watching some of your videos, Tom, and seeing it online. Keith has the same thing. Our friend Rob Stone is kind of the same thing. You guys have this, I don't know, it's like this Zen ability to know what that animal is going to do. Like, where did you learn that? How did you learn that? Is that just you just knew it? Is it from watching the snakes in the wild all the time, or just spending time with them?
Well, really what like he said before, I spent literally 15 of my early, no, more than that, because I started as soon as I could swim, like I wasn't even a teen yet. I spent 30 years looking at wild reptiles in North Florida in all times of the year, underwater, on top of the water, and I watched behaviors. And what I try to do when I see a behavior a reptile does is, why is it doing what it's doing? What causes it to do that? If it's something I haven't seen before. And so you have to question everything you know. And the minute that you think you know a lot about it, something happens and it teaches me that I don't know much about it at all. Yet I have spent literally over 65 years of my life trying to learn. And the more I learn, the less I realize I really know. So it's basically by watching. But also, once you understand, like once you live with stuff like that, and especially, and also too, you can have, let's talk about Mangshan vipers and croc monitors. We have 5 croc monitors here. We have 5 Mangshan vipers here. No 2 of them have the same personality, even treated the same. They don't.
Yeah.
8 or 10 rhino iguanas here. None of them are exactly the same. Females actually on the Sakura are always a little bit of a bitch compared to males. Not by me. So they don't want ours are in the yard free. So when you walk up to them, they'll try to hit you with their tail.
Oh, well.
Be near. He does it with the chickens or anything that bothers her. She runs off. Whereas a male will just happy to see you and want to get petted usually. But they're all different, so you have to treat them all different. But basically, what I do is their behavior, when I look at them, dictates how I handle or interact or deal with them, if that makes sense.
It does.
Because how I deal with them or handle them dictates how they're going to act toward me. One thing I don't want is a big crocodile monitor or a big venomous snake here or the king cobra to decide that I'm a threat and try to kill me. I don't want that. I'm good. And they're all user friendly, and I'm happy. They don't bite me, and I don't bite them, and we don't fight each other.
And that's all that matters. Yeah. Very cool.
And it works well for us. I mean, we have caiman lizards here that, but we keep them in a huge outdoor door. I mean, just our pool is 12 by 15 feet by 2.5 feet deep, and the cage is 24 by 15. But if you open the door of them and call them, they'll come running out of the door as soon as they hear you, wherever you are, and run up to my grandson and then try to climb up and ride around on his shoulder in the yard. We let some of the tree monitors do that, the croc monitors. We let Bill just walk around the yard. All of them are so much more intelligent than we give them credit for. All of them are sentient beings. All of them understand. They all have feelings. They all have emotions. They're just not demonstrated to the point that we can understand. For instance, we rate animals according to how we feel about them in terms of their care by how much they remind us of us. For instance, everyone would treat a pet monkey better than a pet cat. A pet cat is going to get treated every time better than a pet parakeet. A parakeet is going to get treated every time better than a pet iguana. A pet iguana is going to get treated every time better than a pet goldfish. And not saying that those animals are not sentient beings. I'm telling you that that's the mindset of human beings. So my whole purpose in life, especially in my latter years like this, is to change the perception of what the kind of animals reptiles are. Because if we think of reptiles more like sentient beings, like cats and dogs, I'd take even parrots, certainly they'll get better treatment than just buying an iguana because it's cheap, or you're young and stupid and want to buy a croc monitor, which is one of the worst things any herpetoculture should ever have without understanding and a huge enclosure, not only from the safety standpoint of the keeper, but really for the poor animal that suffers.
I think in those instances, the animal tends to suffer more. I mean, we've all seen it where people are buying iguanas or crocodilians or monitors, not fully understanding what that entails. Yeah. Well, Eric and I are in Pennsylvania, so we see
it all the time.
All kinds of things, and I used to be called out to. We used to call it Gator season when everybody would be calling because all their kid went into the show and bought themselves a baby alligator, and then it wouldn't fit in the bathtub anymore. I used to have to go and retrieve them for the zoo I worked for. So
that's just how. Let me just tell you something. We should put this on the anyway for the general public. First of all, and I'm guessing that y'all know, but you might not. A crocodilian is not like any other reptile. Science, even friends of mine I get with sometimes, we argue about whether a crocodilian should be a reptile or somewhere between birds and reptiles, because a very primitive animal called an archosaur, way back in the days of the dinosaurs, a common ancestor for two kinds of animals, crocodilians and birds. A crocodilian is physiologically a bird without feathers. It is intelligent as a corvid bird or an African gray parrot, easy. It lives as like a human being. It has very strong emotions about its keeper, to the point you can have giant saltwater crocodiles and stuff, and if it's one that you interact with all the time, you can go on the water, it never hurts you. I mean, in Indonesia, there are so many like that. And in our croc farm, it was like that too. I'd go in with the big giant Nile crocs. When we had to fix the dens that caved in, I'd carry a pole. All they ever did is swim out and look at me. That's the same giant ones at Gatorland right now. Those are my crocs. I had them on training.
Okay.
So when you buy this baby alligator, like in this gator season, let's talk about that. Here's what you have, baby gator. You're buying an animal that's smart as a crow. He knows everything's going on around him. They also very quickly and more than any other reptile bond with their keeper quick, even if the keeper's not that nice to them. They live a very long time under terrible subpar conditions and suffer from ED and God knows what. And then finally, at 20 or 30 years old, you got a 4-foot male alligator all shortened and dwarfed and distorted, and somebody will dump it out somewhere, and it just can't live its life out. And why would you do that for something that sells for $100 a piece or $200? You know, at one time I captured bred baby crocodilians of all kinds, including alligators, and sold them to the public in the 1990s. But toward the end of the 1990s, I began to realize that I bred so many, the same human crocs at Gatorland. That big nasty one they call Fidel.
Yeah,
It's not nasty at all. Vanessa and all of my kids used to go in with him. They were all trained. He'd come up to you and point at him. He stops. He's not going in with him now, baby. Remember, you wouldn't do anything to me. I won't run. And number two, he knows not to. He just won't.
Right.
They are that intelligent. And I lost my train of thought again because I was thinking about that. Sorry.
You bred baby alligators in the 90s.
I was signing up to the public and these baby crocodiles, and we bred so many human crocodiles, I couldn't even give them away. Because we were hatching out 25 to like 40 a year with 2 to 3 clutches every single year. It all has to do with diet. With the same ones they have at Gator and hatch 1 or 2 every now and again now. But there's no who do you find that can keep one?
Yeah.
So it's just, it's like, I don't know what to say, because a lot of things I never dreamed would be possible back in my heyday, in the 70s and 80s is now, like the idea of wild Burmese in Florida. Holy smokes. I would never do that.
Yeah.
Or giant dead geckos on my porch.
Right.
I mean, it's just, everything has changed so much. Herpetoculture has evolved so much. And really, the one thing, no matter how many little problems herpetoculture has, they do 2 things pretty well with animals they like. And that is breed a hell of a lot of them so that there would always be some released back in the wild. And we'll use 2 examples. Rhino iguanas, for one, that probably over half of them were smuggled into this country. A lot of them by me, even early on. Everybody did, and nobody cared, really. But now there are so many rhino iguanas bred in captivity, literally thousands. If anything happened, there's probably more in captivity in the U.S. than live in the wild with this vanilla. Certainly more than on Mo. You have a reservoir of these captive animals to take back and release. I've been giving away Chilobacterus, Jamaican boas, and Puerto Rican boas for at least 20 years. I gave you some, didn't I, Keith? If I remember.
Yes, you did. Absolutely.
That was a long time ago. But we gave 7 pairs away year before last. And that's to different people in the U.S. just so they don't die out in herpetoculture and to at least preserve bloodlines if something happens in nature. And we're also working with the blue tree monitors now from Atunta, Runners from Crab, same reasons. And we now have F2 eggs cooking. That's pretty
nice.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that happens more and more with just people letting stuff go out of herpetoculture because it's not popular. Yeah.
Well, what they do here in Florida is they'll take a thing that's readily saleable, like geckos or these veiled chameleons, start a population somewhere and turn them all loose, and then go back themselves to harvest them to sell in the pet trade later. That is how a high percentage of our stuff here in Florida actually got into nature. And it was a damn pet trade. I don't care what anybody says. The stuff was released, a lot of it on purpose. Now, I hate to say it, but it happened.
Does that upset you as like a Florida native naturalist?
I'm sorry?
Does that upset you kind of as a Florida native and naturalist that this could be something that would kind of disrupt nature in Florida?
Well, I never turned anything loose. I'm not.
Oh no, you didn't. But other people did it. Yeah,
I would never turn anything loose. I'm telling you how they got here. I already knew the issues with that 40 years ago. I'm not like I wasn't a babe in the woods then. I mean, I was cutting edge back in the 80s. Not now. So we knew all of that. But that's not the problem. What I'm saying is that irresponsible people that buy and sell reptiles, a lot of what we call the hunters here, they go out and professionally hunt snakes, with local snakes, whatever, and then they go sell them to whoever will buy them strictly, or not that many people want native snakes anymore, but a few will, and they export them cheap, and still just like they did 40 years ago. And they just pretty much go unnoticed and nobody cares. And so these same people will take these giant dead geckos. Okay, here's a gecko that wholesale they can get $15 to $20 each for, depending on the size and the sex. That's what they wholesale for. If you took one strip up to John Shanahan at Normal Carl, that's what he give you. And so you go out in the night, you put them in this place, go back 2 years later, and there's going in and catch 100 of them in the daytime, and you got $1,500, $1,800. And of course, the geckos are multiplying and moving all over the place where you turn them loose at too. And then, like the agamas, pretty soon the agamas started in Miami, actually. And now the agamas showed up here about 8 years ago, and now there's agamas almost over the whole state of Florida.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's That's horrible.
We don't have anybody to blame but ourselves.
Yeah.
We do. And I've done stupid shit in the past too, but I never did stupid stuff like that.
You never devastated nature. Yeah.
Everybody's venomous reptiles, exotic venomous reptiles.
Yeah.
We have no anti-venom for them for the most part. We're hoping that a zoo close to us will have it. And so then we get bit and we delay things, which can cause death pretty quick with the right bite. Or somebody tries to bite anti-venom for you, and we tie up, and you take it from somebody else, like us or some other facility. But even if you have venom mistakes, exotic venom mistakes, here's what you need to do, and this is an open message to, I know there's not many of you on this podcast. The first thing is you need to get anti-venom or whatever you carry yourself. And then the doctors in the emergency room on treatment and have treatment protocols like we have here to bring in. Not that we need it here with Venom 1. We're taken care of, and we know the people personally. But it's not fair for you to put pressure up here in Pennsylvania on the Pittsburgh or the Philadelphia Zoo and take their anti-venom that protects their keepers, and then they get bit, and then they don't have protection. And it's very hard right now, for instance, to get monocle cobra anti-venom. Primarily because it's hard to get it from Thailand now. And second of all, because it's a common venomous snake in private hands. A lot of facilities everywhere have sent theirs out to save people's lives.
Wow.
I see.
Wow.
Remember at the beginning, I told you I see all sides. I was never just in herpetoculture. I'm not really an academic, and I'm not a zoo person, but I see this from all of those angles. The big picture, how they network and how they all interact and even affect the other, or whatever situation it is.
So when somebody gets bit and they take that venom or anti-venom from, a zoo or facility or whatever, is the facility or the zoo on the hook for that price of that, or does that person have to pay that back, or how does that work?
Well, they're supposed to pay it back. But to be honest with you, I have done that more in the 80s than any other time. 1980, I did it 7 different times. I never got paid for anything. I just didn't.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I tried. I just couldn't get anybody to pay me. The hospital.
Right.
The person didn't have any money. So
Somebody got paid.
And that
Just wasn't you.
It
I
must
couldn't
be.
I couldn't let him die either. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine,
It's the same with a zoo. I promise you, because I know a few zoos that zoo man that have told me the same.
Yeah. I would imagine that any kind of margin is super tight, right? So when you're having to shell out that money for that antivenom because somebody's being irresponsible, that's tough.
From a human standpoint, you don't have really an option.
Yeah, you don't.
No.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. So something that comes up on our show a lot is we hear from people talking about various species, about how they get lost to the hobby, right? And the debate is that are they lost to the hobby because nobody cared about it? And that could be because, morphs sort of took the front seat and all that kind of stuff. Or is it because some animals are better suited to captivity and some aren't? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it would depend completely upon the species that you talk about, and each one would have a different circumstances. So if you name one, I'll tell you why.
What would you say?
Eyelash boas. How about eyelash boas?
Yeah.
There you go.
The only trachea boas I've ever seen in the hobby was a pair of trachea boa belligerii and 2 pairs of trachea boa gularis that I got.
I remember him on your list.
Again, from Bruce at Bronx Reptile, and he also sent me a pair of Corrales, something Colombiana, that weird chocolate annulated boa from Colombia. And I got a pair of 2. And again, Bruce had no idea what they were. So when the dealers in New York, Alfred and those guys, we had open accounts for thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. they didn't bother about asking anybody or selling it to anybody else because they knew if it was weird or new or if they didn't know what it was, I would want it. So Bruce calls me up and he goes, I got your shipment come down. Listen, he says, I have to run some shit I got in from Ecuador and I don't have a clue what it is. He says, I don't even know what it's about. And so, and there was a thank you boy. When I opened that up, I thought, oh God, I died going to heaven. All I didn't keep them long. You know that book, Snakes of the World by John Murders, Living Snakes of the World with those plates. Uh-huh. You know those pictures of the trachea boa in there? And that Wirrat's viper too, Triberosaurus wirrati. Uh-huh. Those came from me. I was the guy, I got the Wirrati viper I went and got in Thailand. Because I wanted to get them, and I knew that they were in southern Thailand and really rare. But the others I got from Bruce Reptile. That's the same one I'm telling you a story about. But so when you pick them up, I didn't know anything about it. I had heard they lived around water, but I didn't realize how aquatic they actually were until years later. But I never kept them that long. The minute they made my process, every zoo in the country bought them. Same like when I got both these of the Zemiops in, the black-headed Zemiops, and the other one I can't remember. One's Zemiops PI and the other one I can't remember. And they're going in hard, like instantly, because zoos want the rarest of the rare to impress their zoo buddies always.
Right.
You know, so I'll say like we do with our cool shit too, with our herpetosaurs. Same thing. So really, the interesting thing about those boas is that when I picked one up, it got stiff. And it kind of kinked up, and I think it tried to look like a stick. And if you put it in water, it would look like a stick in the water. Kind of. And I had no idea that they did that. I knew exactly what it was, and I knew that time I thought it was a boa because it was, but I didn't know they did that.
Wow.
They were gone. I didn't have any chance to see how to keep them or anything hardly because I always go, I don't know a lot about them, and I wasn't overly interested in them too, like I would be today. And I used to have a saying about keeping it or not. When in doubt, ship it out.
Gone.
But Tom, why do you think that is it legalities of leaving their country is why we don't see them in captivity today?
Yeah, they're common. I just had friends, and Harry and Kessel went there, and they saw a lot of them. Yeah. And I got friends there. If you want to see some trachea boa, come down here. I'll show you bunches of them. It's like everything else. They're in disjunct colonies, and if you know where they are and how to find them, they're not there.
Yeah.
Honestly, I believe they're a tropidopid snake anyway. Basically, I don't even think they'd be hard to breed. They reminded me somewhat of tropidopus, except for the acting like a stick. But I don't know if you know too or not tropidopus. Tropidopus, the first one of those I caught, I had no idea they did this. We turned a rock over on belly, and there was a Tropidopus canis curtis, which is that was thought to be a boa too. We're talking 1971 probably. It was about that long, and I turned the rock and I picked it up, and immediately there was blood all over its head. And so I thought, oh shit, I damaged it with the rock. They all hemorrhaged from their mouth.
Oh, wow.
Some does from the side.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But I never saw any of the eyelash boas do that. That's why I brought that up. But they are tropidopid, remember.
That's interesting. That's interesting. It's the fun little observations you see.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like you were talking about. Oh, go ahead. Okay. Oh no, I was going to say, how did you start making the trips overseas and these connections that you made to get these different reptiles? Because there's no internet, everything's snail mail.
The first Caribbean, and the Caribbean, I live in Fort Myers, Florida, so I could drive to Miami, hop on a plane, and be anywhere in the Caribbean in hours. And Caribbean in the 1970s, let me tell you something. First time I went to Haiti was in 1972. And imagine a man, I graduated from high school in 67. 1972, and I've heard all these stories about, I'd already been to, by the time I decided to be brave enough to go to Haiti, I'd already been to Bimini, I had been to Eleuthera, and the Ragged Islands, but I had never been to Haiti. So we flew in, and as we're flying over Haiti, the pilot tells us that we're flying over Haiti, and you can see the boundary between the DR and Haiti. And I looked down, And the entire demarcation line between Haiti and the Dominican Republic, it looked like a desert on one side and a tropical paradise on the Dominican Republic side. Beautiful trees, mountains, and rainforests. And they had these big nude mountains, but with patches of rainforest here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Get there, and we drive to Port-au-Prince. We go to voodoo ceremonies and see. I mean, I went to Haiti 10 or 12 times, but how I did all of that, it was the fascination of living life and seeing reptiles. That I was an astute student. So Albert Schwartz had already revised all of the Epicrates living in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're Albatross, but they weren't there. So I knew where every island was and all the animals were. And some of my friends had had them named after them because they were over there collecting them for the professors, like Al Schwartz flew over. And so I did a lot of that too. I collected a brand new species of the giant Caribbean gecko on Turks and Caicos, on North Caicos in 1974. Named Aristologer hecti after Barbara Hecht of the American Museum of Natural History, that her entire life was spent studying Aristologer. It was a fitting name for it. And it's a great big, like 10-inch long gecko. So anyway, so when we get to Haiti, though, it's like going back in time 100 years. But seeing the poverty with that, the desert. So then, this was the other thing I was going to say, too, because it's too long to tell Caribbean story. That trip, Jeff Schrock was with me. I don't know if any of you know Jeff Schrock. If you Google his name, he was one of the first people to bring Indian pythons in the world in
Wow.
Detroit. Did a lot of the early Herp stuff, and he's still alive in Florida and older than me. So anyway, Jeff went with me, and we rented a car, and we decided we were going to drive up to Capétienne on the north coast, which goes across the big Atibonite Desert. Once you get to Gonaïves, and then once you get there, you head up in the mountains. But we didn't realize it was a dirt road once you got to Gonaïves. So once we got to Gonaïves, when we started going up the big mountains to come down into Capétienne, we're like 7,000 or 8,000 feet up, and this is a dirt damn road with two cars. So it took us 13 hours to go 180 miles.
Oh my God.
So we're tired as crap, and we collected, and I can tell you a lot of collecting stuff too. I caught Hypsorhynchus ferox, and the wild chameleons and Alsophis, and I caught my first forage boa on the way up there. I could just tell you, but I won't. So we get up to the north part up there, and we go out to the next day, go out to this village called Limbe. And the people at first don't believe that we'll buy snakes and tarantulas and stuff. So they don't bring much, or they bring us dead ones. So we explain we always say, la culebra viva, la culebra viva. In Creole, that means live snake, not hurt. La culebra, with a K. So these people that started to bring us, they brought us 2 Haitian boas that day, but they were tied by vines, real tight to sticks. So Jeff and I are looking, we brought a lot of extra snake bags. So I said, let's give them each a couple of snake bags, man. These guys that brought the snakes in will catch us some more. So we did. They about 10 or 12 snake bags. We come back the next day, and they bring us snakes tied to sticks. And
Where are the bags?
They made clothes out of them. And they were something down. They would pick it up and save it like an empty water bottle. And then what I'm trying to say to you is, I began to see how poor these people really were.
Mm.
We don't have a clue. And that slapped me in the face when I was like 23 years old. And it just changed the course of my life. And also when people talk about, oh, that asshole, he's killing an elephant or a sea cobra or whatever, you don't live with those animals. If you did, like this for people, you'd understand better. It's like there's just too many of us.
Oh, yeah.
There is. I'm sorry, I get off there.
No.
Yeah,
You did that. We love tangents. Go on them. It's fine. You can do as many as you like. That's the whole point of the show.
So, imagine the poverty, just to think about that kind of poverty. Jeff and I, of course, when we saw that they had this, I've got a pic of this. I'll send it to you once we get to the the guy, the kids wearing that shirt with the stakes tied to stick. That was the second day. And Jeff and I laughed, and when we got through laughing, we looked at each other, and it was just a total sadness.
Yeah.
Think about how important those sacks were to them just to have something to wear.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're thinking about the cheapest price we could buy this shit for because we can make more money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That happens. I mean, that had to have been something you dealt with a lot on various trips all over the world.
Oh yeah, I went around the world on my first trip when I was 34, and that would have been about 1982 or 83, and I was gone 6 weeks. My first stop was the Seychelles. Where I stayed a week, shipped back Aldabras and 24 like small to medium sized ones, and I shipped back Phelsuma sunburgi for the first time. I sent up to Alfred Ojeda in New York back at that time, the Phelsuma. And I sent Phelsuma abonite, which I think was the first time too. And I was after that aquatic chameleon, Camellia tigris, that's endemic to Mahi. I couldn't find it. But if I had it, that would have been the only one that's ever been brought back, for sure.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah, I think on the sunburgi and the abonite, those were the very first ones in Herp, of course, ever. So the only place they occur is there too. They're not found like on Madagascar. So then after I left the Seychelles, I went to Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka owed me already about $25,000 for an albino Burmese python. I had shipped them. And part of our agreement was that they didn't have money, but I could have anything I want from Sri Lanka up to that amount of money and settle on the price. So I said that's what prompted the trip around the world. So I stayed a week there in Sri Lanka as a guest of the government, and they gave me a bungalow in the big national park Lupatu. And I saw wild pythons and crates and cobras and all that. Calagoya and Cabargoya, that's the Bengal and water monitors, the big crocodile, salties, muggers out in front of our thing. And we had just a great time. And I field collected and shipped back Sri Lankan star tortoises, Sri Lankan pythons, real ones, pure ones, and a lot of them from there. And once I left, I packed it and they shipped the shipment. And then I left there and flew to Bangkok for a week, met Dang, and then which changed my life too on really cool stuff because he knew the stuff I wanted. I visited him before he died in 2012 in Bangkok again. I got a picture pushing a wheelchair now. He's the guy that provided all the albino Burmese pythons, every single one of them came in the U.S.
Wow.
And then after I left Dang, I went to Hong Kong for 4 days to shipments back. Then I went to Japan, stayed just 3 days, and then back to San Francisco and back to the U.S., but I went through Europe.
Okay.
Wow.
And that was my first trip around the world. I took 4 of them, or 5 of them, and then I also did side trips in Asia a lot, just to one place. I've been to Asia a lot.
Was the albino Burm?
Amazon, too.
Oh, yeah?
Amazon. Yeah.
You've been to Australia, too, right?
I have.
Yeah.
Cool.
He went herping with Ty and Scott.
Oh, that's right. They were at that same tree we were at.
They're at the same tree we were at.
All right.
Yeah.
The Salatorian swine-eye. The big Salatorian swine-eye. Yeah, we caught some of those, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I caught a lot of everything I caught in Australia was new. Are you kidding me? I didn't catch an ammo and pellet python, though. I didn't get that.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We saw it.
We did.
Yeah, that was the one we got.
We got one on Tom Crutchfiled. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's the only thing we got on him. Yeah.
So,
But I did, though. I was playing 5 hours, and I was in Peter Birch's backyard. I was just tired. You just go spend the night at Peter's house and fly to Brisbane to do the presentation at the expo there in 2014, I think. So we were looking at his reptiles. It was wintertime, so his reptile house was hot. I still had my coat on, but it was probably 60 or 62 outside. So I said, he said, well, step outside. You look hot. I said, yeah, let's do it. So we stepped outside, and the side of the mountain, he's got a garage, a 2-car garage, and the upstairs is reptiles, and downstairs is cars. But the mountain comes down almost even to the upstairs where the balcony is. And you can just walk out on the side of the mountain on this big, little bridge. So I walk out there, and we're sitting there for, 10 minutes or so, and I heard something in the grass. And it sounded like a snake. I thought there'll be a snake out this. Look, it's a damn diamond python.
Oh, man.
Beautiful diamond python. 4 or 5 feet long. I had a picture. I was like, I immediately I got pissed off with Peter. I said, you put that there. You had to put that there.
This is a plan.
No, he showed me sheds. He had old shed skins under his house. He had he had a pair of land mullets and 3 babies that bask every day in his front yard. They lived under a trailer and a big Australian water dragons all over the yard with the water in the back. Oh yeah, and those Pylorus geckos, they were as common as brown whales. There's thousands of them. I have follow webs. He goes outside. Every rock we turned over had a follow web under it. Almost every one.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. An amazing trip.
Speaking of diamond pythons, one of the things that obviously we're Morelia Python Radio, so we got to talk a little bit Morelia. Diamond pythons, you keep yours outside. Lisa, one of our patrons, had a question. She was curious about, you tempt them close to 100 degrees out there basking in the morning, and I guess one of her questions was, do you use food cycle to help? Or do you feed on a regular schedule? Just what is it like keeping them outside? Have you noticed a difference in behavior? I think you keep a lot of your reptiles outside, if I'm not mistaken.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, for the first thing is snakes don't eat on schedules. So any of you that feed snakes on schedules should immediately stop and get off all forums and say it's necessary. Mm-hmm. You feed the snake when it's hungry. The snake tells you when it's hungry, depending on length of time, how warm it is, and all kind of factors. But so we have no set time feeding snakes. We do make sure that the animals, just by eyeballing them, have enough weight to be able to produce eggs, but not fat. None of our stuff here is fat. Nothing. I'm probably the fattest snake here, and way too heavy. But the reptiles are not fat. We just don't, and you don't need to. We missed last year on diamond pythons because I took the male out too early. And that was the first year in years. So if I had that clutch last year, I expected that would have been my 24th career successful clutch of diamond pythons in about 11 years.
Wow.
Jesus.
At times I've had 3 females and produce 3 clutches a year and stuff. I mean, we kept a lot of them, and the only ones that I kept to breed are those Gosford, real classic looking diamond pythons. I don't do morphs. I don't want any of that. I don't even want it here. Because I like the one I caught, I like those. And but we don't do anything special. We keep them outside, and we brought every single thing we have inside of the tropical boas and monitors. We had 3 days here, 35 and 36 degrees. Mm-hmm. You know what? The only ones I didn't bring in?
Diamond pythons.
Diamond pythons.
Yeah.
And they're also the only ones that don't have any heat at all, of any kind.
Really?
Not even a heating pad.
Wow.
And you know what? I've never had one even get a respiratory.
Wow.
We breed Synzinia. We find that the diamonds will breed every year with enough weight. The Synzinia we have, we breed every other year like clockwork. You might can make one breed. Actually, we had one breed 2 years in a row, but it had like 1 baby or 2 babies rather than 8 or 10. So we just let them cycle themselves like they would in nature every other year. The Chilibothrus go every other year. Jamaicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, all that. Interestingly enough, we found, now also too, we keep all of our snakes together year round, all the time.
Okay.
Everybody else says, I'm going to put them in when they're breeding. Well, let me ask you something. How the hell do you know when the female snake is giving off pheromone? But I can't smell that. If anybody can smell it, I can be able to, but I can't. I can't believe you can't either. So how do you know when the right time is to put it in? You know what people tell you, what's successful for others, but everybody's house is different. Everyone's thing is a little bit different. But I'm going to tell you one thing, the damn snakes know. They know. And we have no problem breeding very rare things here. Mm-hmm. We don't. Because unless there's some factor like cold or something where we just can't get them cold enough, the manx have been a pain in the butt, but pretty much every other species here, we breed, even tree monitors and stuff. Mm-hmm. And not with difficulty. Just let it be the kind of animal it is. Let them choose the temperature they want to be. Like with diamond pythons, I have found that the temperature I temp gun them the most at, and at no particular time of year. I've seen in the spring when they carry eggs, because she'll lay eggs probably April, I'm guessing, or May maybe. And pretty much for all of them, the diamonds will get up to about 95 to 96 degrees is the temp I do the most, but I tempt one diamond several times at over 100 degrees.
Wow.
And basking, and it's 85 degrees outside. So why is it even basking? It doesn't like it. But apparently it needs that access. But here's how I think on all that about keeping them apart and all that. I don't know more than those animals do about how they want to live or anything else. So I make sure they have a cage big enough if they want to get away from each other, they can. But being honest with you, most of my pairs choose to be together almost all the time. Mm-hmm. And to be perfectly frank with you, why wouldn't they do that in the wild? Because they have the same. If they share the territories with the same females, they're going to see those same snakes all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because you find one by itself doesn't mean that it lives solitary all the time. And one thing that should tell you different than that is that people don't think so. It's just hiding. What about in the wintertime when you turn over those 10 piles and find bunches of the same kind of snakes under one piece of tin? They're not there by accident, dude. They're there because that's a good place and their buddies are there.
Yeah,
right. And the dens, the same thing. It's the same damn snakes. They know each other.
Yeah.
And we've never had one fight. The only thing I've ever had happen is I had a female Jamaican boa that I've had her well over 30 years. Mother of your babies. They're our babies now, sure. That absolutely didn't like another female. And a couple of times at feeding, she bit the female and wrapped her. And I thought, well, an accident, but they know better anyway. Even though that where you think they get on the one, they don't know the difference. They do.
They know the difference.
Right.
It's pretty much on purpose. And I'm not just saying that. We watched it here. Watch what happened. You'll see one turn the other. It's almost 100% of the time. Black-headed pythons, no, but like regular boas and pythons, they don't want to eat each other. Not really. It's not like a collarboard snake might. So when you get these, again, I got on the fan.
Do you think this girl was just trying to get the other girls out so her babies would have a chance? Or?
No, she didn't want the female in the cage. And later on, I go out there. I don't know, it was a month later or so, a little bit later, I posted about it actually because it was so unusual. And I see bite marks on it. Know it's been constricted, and the other female killed it.
Oh.
On purpose. Because she wanted in there with it.
Wow.
Why? I don't know. But I just did a whole thing on grief, too, that I saw with Reptiles lepidus clobberi for a friend of Harry Green, and he should need no introduction. He wrote that book, Tracks and Shadows. He's probably the greatest anthropologist that's ever lived in a mind for a long time. And he asked me if I would talk about the grief thing I saw with the clobberi to a scientist friend of his that now has discovered that reptiles now, I think all of you know all of the reptiles play with toys. All of them.
Yes.
I mean, I put the video, even they have favorite toys. He also finds they have grief, and I agree with her.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You ever had a snake that was paired? Keep them together so it never fled. Like I kept a pair of clobberi together they were subadults when I got them. They fitted off. They stayed together everywhere within 3 years. They began to breed and have babies, Franklin Mountain clobberi. And they had babies for 4 litters for 8 years, every other year. And the male injured his mouth somehow and died. When he did, the female went off feed, wouldn't hardly eat. So I got a beautiful male from the Palancias, which was not the same male. Put it in with her. She never stayed together with him like she did with the other one. They were inseparable. And eventually, I finally took the male out because then she wouldn't eat at all with the male in there. And then finally, she died about 9 months later. Now, there was nothing wrong with her. She just decided that she won't live. So is that grief? I don't know. But the scientists think so. And honestly, I've changed a lot that I thought in my early days. It would not surprise me if she's correct. I actually am leaning towards her being correct because I've seen similar stuff and just didn't pay as much attention to it because I didn't think it was possible. It might be.
Yeah, I think one of the things for me over the years, you talk about like the progression of a keeper. Field herping has changed my view of things a lot, because, if I hear about it or whatever, it's different when you see it or you're in that environment, you feel it. You start to think of things like, wow, am I keeping this as the best I can? And, is this, just paper in a water bowl, well enough. And then I read the book, The Secret Social Lives of Reptiles, which just like totally blew my mind about, some of the things in there. I mean, you talk about how you've evolved over the year. Like, what is your thoughts on reptile intelligence and how's that?
Oh, my thoughts on reptile intelligence. Number one, Gordon Burkhart, who's one of those authors of that Secret Life Book of Reptiles, reached out to me about 7 or 8 years ago and asked if he used some of my videos in his seminars, teaching seminars, and I allowed him to. Over this time, we became fairly close friends. I met him at a talk I gave and one he gave at the Chiricahua Desert Museum on Advanced Herpetological Husbandry Symposium some years ago. And he has helped me understand scientifically what I am seeing, and he has also confirmed all of the things that I've said as also being factual from a scientific standpoint, as much as we do today. Everyone should be forced to read The Secret Life of Reptiles, and if you want to keep reptiles, you should read it because it will help you see them as the kind of animals they actually are, just as he said. But going back in terms of the cognition, this last February, I was asked by Loma Linda University, Bill Hayes, who's there. I'm sure a lot of you know who that name is. Highly, probably the most published herpetological professional biologist in the country. He edited that book about rattlesnakes. That really goes really good books. It just came out, the real thick ones and new ones. So anyway, Bill asked me if I would do a program on the cognition of reptiles, and we called it a seminar. And Gordon spoke there too. Gordon Burkhart, the book guy. And my presentation was cold-blooded cognition from a keeper's perspective. Because I'm not trying to go into the side. I asked them a lot of different things. And then Gordon had another seminar here it was week before last, and God, I think he used 6 of our videos in that. So here's what I think. I think that crocodilians are at least as smart as crows or parrots, and even primates, even almost up to the great apes. I saw a video of a friend of mine and lives in Tavernier, collects reptiles. He has an American crocodile living in his backyard. He sent me a video of a floating bag of garbage in the canal. The American crocodile surfaced, took the bag of garbage, pushed it up to his boat ramp, pushed it half in and half out of the water, then backed up 3 feet and submerged. Set up an ambush and baited it for stray cats and dogs. They did.
Wild. Oh, no.
Those alligators and crocodiles with all those plants all over them. Do that on purpose. It's camouflage. And they get up at the age and sit. And so they wear costumes and stuff. So if you really look at it like that, that's what it is. These things are not like what even any of you three think, I promise you. I have seen things that just make me get chill bumps because, like Stacy's alligator squirt she had for so long. Squirt was made alligator chow off of a plate. I have a video of this, by the way. He lived in the swamp loose by the house here, and he would come over, but he would always lose a lot of his stuff trying to eat it because he didn't have a good place to sit, like back where he liked to stay. So after the second time he did it, when he swam over to get it, he looks at the plate. Instead of taking anything off the plate, he picks the plate up and his jaw's up high. And then he walks, and at parts he has to swim and then walk again and hold it all over the water till he gets back to where he sits. Then he sat it down where he went to get it, he spilled it, and then he got it all and ate it. So he couldn't just create it his home. I have the video. I couldn't make that up.
It's great.
Right.
But yet it's true. Yeah. So when I see this, I don't say anything on a lot of these, and I don't go on forums and all that anymore because really there's nothing really. I'm just doing the best I can to teach without being as hard as I'd like to be honest with you, with idiots out there. And they speak without even understanding at all the big picture.
Yeah.
They're looking at one little teeny tiny. Like I see these forums where people want to bathe Sakura, like rhino iguanas and all that. Why in the hell would you want to bathe an animal that is terrible? Most of these animals live on little keys, and how a lot of them get killed is being in hurricanes where the salt water over washes them away and they drown. They can float for hours, but they eventually get killed by something and drown. They don't like water. They hate water. They're not green iguanas. They're rock iguanas.
Right.
People do that. And I put up a picture of 60, 70-foot tall cactus trees in the Atimaniti and not a green blade of grass anywhere. That's where they live.
Right.
And you put them in a bathtub and arguing with me about it.
I love the and then argue with you about it. Like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah. Yeah, I think the thing I try to preach all the time is, like, if you're into a species, whatever species it would be, you know, if you can, rather than go and buying the hundreds of snakes, right? Just go and find where that animal is, buy a plane ticket, go to that area. Even if you don't find the snake there, just be in the habitat. Try to.
You know a lot about it. You automatically learn a crap load about an animal by just being where it is. That's my biggest advantage over everybody else. Like, I wanted to find a black roughneck monitor. I never collected one, but I know exactly where they live.
Right.
I was there, wanted to see one, and I know what the people tell me how they find them. They find them on the side of the trees, and so I did that on a lot of things. That was part of my trips. Where I was making money and being able to pay for it all by shipping stuff that I could sell at a profit. I could afford to take other trips and make money, but honestly, it was really about adventure.
Yeah.
I wanted to catch a cobra, not read about one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't want to read a bullet spike. I wanted to catch one. I wanted to see a wild. I didn't want to see. Right. That was how I was. And I did all that, and I've still done it. I mean, my last trip to the Amazon was 2018.
Oh, okay.
So,
nice.
It's our ecological biodiversity expeditions we used to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So all I can say is, all of you herpers that are getting older, buy memories, not things.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot.
You sparked a lot of memories, just me thinking about stuff I wouldn't have thought of, except for y'all probably being some way.
Yeah.
That's the good thing. I mean, and as far as like reptiles, I mean, clearly you've had so many over the years. Do you have a favorite, and has it shifted and changed at all?
It's pretty much the same. My favorite reptiles still in the world are Cyclura and like Chilobothris boas.
Okay.
And I decided a long time ago, when the law wouldn't let you sell Jamaicans across state lines, that I was going to breed as many Chilobothris as I could, as many species as I could. And honestly, I bred every species of Chilobothris except for Chilobothris monensis and that new species they just described a couple of years ago in Barahona on the border with the Dominican Republic and Haiti, but south of Lagos and Moquillo. It's only because I didn't know it existed, but I bred Fords, Haitians or Dominicans, Jamaica, all of them, every single species. And Abacobo was even exiled and years back. And I still love them, and I still keep them today.
I remember years ago, you had you were
just see Stacy in the background, just then walking by,
leaping by. Yeah, she was sneaking by.
You making faces? They're laughing at you.
Something like that. I actually have some of your. Actually, have two of your Dominican boas
cool.
that I got through the grapevine that are traced back to you. So
cool.
I was about to take a shower.
All right, go take one, babe. I will take one after this.
But I know you mentioned earlier the albino berm, and we did a little book club thing on the Stolen World where we kind of covered that a little bit, but we just kind of, if you want to walk us through something like that.
What actually happened with the albino Burmese? The story's not correct in Stolen World. That's not shit. Actually, a lot of that book's not true.
Okay.
Some of the stuff that happened, and it didn't even happen even close to like. That was really what happened from the point of view of Hank Moak more than anybody else.
Gotcha.
Hank Moak, and if any of you know Hank Moak, he is the most intentional pathological liar, and I don't even think he knows the truth from fiction. But anyway, what happened with the albino Burmese is Alfred Ojeda in New York City called me and said he had a chance to pick up 3 albino Burmese pythons, 2 males and 1 female, $7,000 a piece. The year was 1980 or 81. I owned my own house already by then and stuff. And I mean, I had a small mortgage on it, but it was mine. So I didn't have that much. I had about 12 grand or so. So I took a second mortgage, got the rest, bought the 3 pythons. They came in a couple of weeks, and he shipped them down. Bob Clark came down and looked at them. He'd been trying to get them and couldn't get them. So he came down, and he'd come down a long time before that, too. He used to get a lot of stuff from me back in the day. And we made a deal. Of course, I gave him one of the males for $10,000 and not for sale. That was agreed on fee. And he then owed me half of all the first clutch and had to return the python. Okay. The male I exported to the zoo in Sri Lanka, which wanted it really bad because it's a Buddhist nation. And they wanted an albino cobra, which I had too. So I set up my first trip around the world. It's probably 81 or 82 at the most. And then I had the big female, which I liked and kept. Plus I was going to get het babies. So my plan was, so anyway, so that same trip I tell you about, the first trip, I fly to Thailand, and I meet Mr. Dang, and he'd been in National Geographic Design. I'm so happy to meet him, and I go up to him, and he takes us out to dinner. He's one of the nicest guy in the world. And we're in his office in the afternoon, and I'm sitting there. Roger Ope is with me. That's a name from the past. You might have met him at IHS. He's dead now a long time, but I said, Mr. Dang, I said, listen, I want to see your albino pythons. He starts laughing, and he's got more jewelry on than probably all my cars were worth at the time, and I even had a Mercedes at the time. And he's very wealthy, you can tell. And he starts laughing at me, and he goes, well, you have already seen them, Tom. They're at your house. And I said, what? They were stolen from Dang by another reptile dealer that supplied Alfred Ojeda, called Barnage Trading Company. And so I thought, well, I'm going to be in a Thai prison or dead here in a second. It's not the case at all. He asked what happened. I told him, and he went to the course and they gave a statement on half the python. And he goes, Tommy, this is something a lot of people don't know. At that time, when I had the 3 also, Ernie Wagner got 1 from a guy in the Netherlands who also got it from Dang. And Ernie had imported it after I imported the 3. So anyway, I'm at Dang's now, and Dang, that last big female there, he goes, that big female was one I had around my neck in National Geographic, and she means a lot to me. He said, I would like to keep her as a pet. I said, well, I paid a lot of money. He goes, I know. So I get back, and we became good friends. When I got back, I think about it. So 6 or 8 weeks later, I exported him with a female back. The one he loved.
Yeah.
I'm in Bangkok. I have a picture of it in the office from 2012. But he turns around, and a month later, I get a shipment with 2 more albino Burmese in it, about 4 feet long. So, thank me for that pet of his. And to this day, we remain real. I just couldn't keep this thing.
That was good of you, because I think half the people would have been like, no. And that's,
he was too nice to me there.
Yeah.
Good karma.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good karma.
Maybe 2 more albino Burmese, and then Joe Laszlo got involved with that. They were sold to 2 doctors. So technically speaking, I had 5 Burmese total, although 1 went back to Bangkok because I shipped it back, and Ernie Wagner had 1. And that's where all of them came from, every one. There were never more than that I just so you know. And I don't care what book you read, what story you tell, what I just told you is the truth.
That's the truth. Okay.
I was there.
That's got to feel weird seeing an albino Burm like now, knowing
when I saw him, dude, I was like, oh, God. I couldn't even believe it. I was so happy to see it. And nowadays, I don't even like morphs of anything. I just don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything changed. A lot of it does. But the main thing, too, is learning. Just the more longer you live, the more you should learn about all this. Because I know for me, God, every day is like just teaching me something else that I didn't even know about any of it. A master always remains the pupil. Always.
Yeah, just when you think you have it figured out. Nope.
Curveball. Yep.
Yeah. Would that be, I mean, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, but was the albino berm like that was the first big morph, right? It wasn't the albino ball python. It was the berm, right?
Really was the corn snake. The albino corn snake, bred by Bechtel, who was a real close relative. He was a dermatologist, lived in Valdosta, Georgia. And that was exciting, but was a $250 snake. The albino for $5,000. That made them a lot more exciting.
Yeah.
Because people begin to realize that they can make a living breeding reptiles.
Right.
You can't do that stuff $250 albino pork, but you can sell a $20,000, $50,000 or $5,000 albino Burmese annually.
Yeah.
Better than anybody else. Just like when I was back catching them rat snakes, man, and selling them to Snakeatorium. Well, my friends would pay it and the tobacco barns. This makes sense.
just that but bigger. Yeah. It goes back around. Wow.
It's got to pay to have fun to do all this. It's got to pay for itself. So
yeah. I wanted to ask you about this quote. It really sticks with me. I hope I get this right, but you said that it's only when the keeper and the kept lose their fear of each other that the magical understanding begins. Can you elaborate on that? What led you to this realization?
As long as you're a little bit afraid of that animal, you're going to act jumpy around it, and they're going to pick up the negative energy. And if it's a really dangerous animal, it'll make it more dangerous because it does not know what shit you're going to do. For instance, we can go out with those big ass croc monitors we have. One of them's 2 years. It was in New Guinea 2 years ago, Scarface. He's the biggest, longest one I have. He's 8 feet 7 about now. You put a raw chicken neck in your hand like that, hold it out, and he'll come over there, tongue the chicken neck, carefully pick it up and eat it. However, he's not afraid of me, and I'm not afraid of him. I know he's not going to bite me. But you couldn't do that. Neither three of you. Because the minute you saw that monitor, once he targeted it, once he reaches for it like that, and you involuntarily do that, it's going to stop the prey from escaping. It's going to bite the shot out of you, and then be sorry and turn you loose, and then you're going to tell everybody you accidentally bit you. No, it didn't. It bit you because it wanted to bite you because its prey was escaping. You can't override that genetic. That's what it was. That's what it was born to do. But once that's understanding the behavior as opposed to understanding part of the behavior. But if you're a little bit afraid of anything, the animal's not going to react like you would. And it goes back to, all right, look at this. There's a German word called umbelt. Any of you know what umbelt means? UMBELT?
Nope.
No. You should. You can Google that. It's a German word. And what it means is seeing things or understanding the environment from the way that the animal sees it, to understand ethology. It's about ethology. In other words, a reptile does not look at reality like you do. Snakes and lizards all squamate reptiles depend almost entirely on their olfactory organs, the Jacobs organs, and everything else, as opposed to eyes or even heat sensors for that matter. The tongue is for absolute proof intelligence. So, again, I got sidetracked trying to explain the
Umbelt.
So for you to understand how that animal's going to act, you've got to understand how it's picking up stuff in the air with its tongue, or what it's seeing, or what infrared shapes it's seeing, or something. And if you can't do that, it's very hard to know how to act or understand what the animal. And more importantly, why is it doing what it's doing? Because remember, how the animal acts should dictate how you handle it, and how you handle it dictates how the animal is going to act every time.
Right.
Just don't. But the Germans call it umbelt.
Very cool.
That one up.
So you mentioned it a couple times, like with your adventures and going and finding stuff. Do you have a favorite find or your greatest reptile find that comes like right to your head of
probably a thing that was happening to me back in the 1960s? There was a new boa described from the Tiburon Peninsula in Haiti. Remember at that time, that was my favorite, still our favorite group of boas in the world.
Right.
It was named by all sorts, Epicrates striatus exagetus. The word exagetus means mystical, like in Bordeaux, because it's a center for Bordeaux. You call it voodoo, but it's called Bordeaux. It is in the Tiburon Peninsula. But the problem, Tiburon Peninsula in Haiti is that little long string-looking thing that sits down. That's called the Shark Peninsula. And it's very narrow, but it's very undeveloped compared to the rest of it. Extremely remote. And at the time I was there were no roads.
Okay.
It's impossible to drive there. So you could go by boat or you could go by a chartered plane. So I chartered a plane and stayed a week. And I went out to hunt this boa, and I actually caught 7 of them, between 7 babies, rather, and 1 big adult female between Cap Perrine and Jeremy. But that was a whole 11 story to take an hour. You wouldn't even believe that story. What a wild place. One place I remember at night being in the hut with these Haitians. And these people, if anything, poorer than the people up there. They ain't got nothing. They're in a mud wall hut like Africa with a thatched hut and a fire. And they're eating corn that they grew. And we're out front, and they gave us some of the corn, and we had some rice we brought and gave it to them. And they cooked it for us, too. And I'm sitting with the head man and my interpreter. Nobody there spoke English, no one. Mm-hmm. And the guy's talking to me in Creole, and I didn't speak any at that time. And I asked Fritz, I said, what's he saying, Fritz? He says he asked if you can hear the corn grow, too. I said, what? He said he can hear the corn grow, and he knows it's going to be a good year. I said, he actually means he can hear the actual corn grow? And he goes, yes. I said, tell him I can't. I'm sorry, I wish I could. I'm not sure that's exactly what he meant. That's so strange.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Whatever. Yeah, that's.
Things I've learned in these experiences. It's humbling, really. I'm thankful to have lived the life I have.
Yeah.
To have learned what I've learned.
What do you think the future of the reptile hobby and herpetoculture is, being someone who kind of set some of the foundation stones for it? You know, where do you think it's going?
Where do I think it's going? I really don't know. I hope that it evolves for the better and with more responsibility and a lot of things, but it's hard to say. People are going to be people and do what they're going to do, you know. And the main thing I hope through it all is that I hope that at least some of us remain passionate about the animals themselves and drive for that, because that's really my interest. But I just want what's best for herpetoculture in general. And also, too, one thing I was going to say, 2 things before. Yeah. In a way, it's kind of good, because at the beginning we talked about how everybody hated reptiles, like when I was young, and even when y'all are young. But, you know, the internet, social media, that so many people keep them has actually improved that, I think, a little bit. And it's not just, still as many people hate them, but not everybody wants to kill them anymore on sight. And so that's a pretty good positive, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
100%.
Yep.
I kind of feel like some of the parts of that, like, I feel like the turtle hobby and the dart frog part of the hobby have all sort of like pushed husbandry forward. And I see like the snakes section of the hobby, like slowly making that turn, but it's like turning the ship around, right? You're not going to just like turn the ship, you know? But,
well, you know why, right?
Why is that?
It's just real easy to breach snakes. Almost.
Yeah.
And you don't have to take care of it. You can keep, 50 ball pythons in a 12-by-12 bedroom in racks, and they'll live for a year. If you take really good care of them, don't get them fat, they'll live about 25 or 30 years. You would too if somebody put you in a bathroom and gave you enough food to keep you lean and where you wouldn't die. And you'd breed if they put a woman in there, but your quality of life would suck. But that doesn't matter, because the justification is that they're not sentient beings. They don't understand, and they just don't care. And like ball pythons spend all the time underground, and they just don't. They do sometimes, but everything should have choices. That's what we do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's why they do that. It's simply for money more than anything else, because you can keep a lot of things in a small place and they're easy to breed. You put dart frogs in there, you cut the dart frog people are mostly for passion, and a lot of ball pythons and other easy guys are for money. It's just the truth.
Yeah, it's like the snake nerds versus reptile nerds versus the non-reptile nerd, where they're just more looking at it as a side business type of deal.
Yeah.
I'm more of the nerd type. The thing that I've learned is, like, when I was a kid, we kept snakes in cages. My dad built these cages and, all kinds of stuff like that. And, once I got back into the hobby, and you kept, it was this whole rack thing, and I just thought, okay, I guess this is how we keep snakes now, and this is how we keep them efficiently. And for the longest time I did that, and then I started to keep them in cages and noticed that they actually did things. Like my diamond pythons, for example, like when that light comes on, they're out ready to bask every morning in that UV and in the heat, and they know, like, it's going to come on. How do they know it's going to come on? I don't know. I don't understand this. Like, it just did, I don't know. When you give them those things, they sort of, they all of a sudden they have new behaviors that you. It's like sort of having this little window into nature that you can sort of like just, wow, I have this brief opportunity to see this. You probably would never see this in the wild, only because you're just not going to have that opportunity. And now all of a sudden you have that opportunity to watch them do what they do, and fascinating to me, so. Anything else, Keith?
And I got questions, Keith. Anything like that?
I have no questions, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank Tom for the message that he's putting out these days.
Totally.
I think that his notoriety in the hobby, he has a very large audience, and he's taken advantage of that in a very positive way. So much respect to you for that, Tom. I really appreciate your friendship and our sidebars, and I just think you're doing a great job and doing the animals a wonderful justice. So appreciate you, man.
Well, thank you. 100%. And I appreciate all of y'all too. Love it like you do it. For me, it's just a passion, If I just help change the perception of the kind of an animal a reptile is, even just crocodilians, which really is justified from a scientific standpoint. I mean, there are good arguments why they be reptiles almost as good as the ones that they should be reptiles. So it's true. So I just hope that people see them and we evolve in a more positive trajectory in the future.
Yeah. Definitely.
We appreciate you taking the time and talking with us. And
my pleasure. Thank y'all much.
It was fun, and then I actually just got your book on giant snakes, so I'm gonna pick through that, and I'll have questions later. So,
actually, we mentioned the eyelash boas, but we explained the changing of they're not boas anymore, but we included them anyway. Because actually, almost at the time we started the book, they were, and then they weren't. So
that's just not fair. It's like they keep adding Haitian boas, or they keep adding more boas that you didn't breed yet. It's like, well, that's just not fair. So they just need to stop.
I know.
But thanks very much. Do you have anything that you want to throw out? Any place where people can find you online, or if they want to contact you or anything like that, you want to throw out there?
Not good. They can reach me on social media. Just on Facebook or something if they want to. Sure.
They need you, they'll find you. It's good enough for anybody. Well,
100%.
Thank you, Tom. It's been a joy, and you have a good one. Okay.
How do I leave? Just
we'll kick you out. Don't worry, I got you.
Yeah. You're good.
Yep. All right. Well, that was fun. I love talking to the old school guys. It just feels weird when they're like, and I did all my stuff between, 50 and 70. I'm like, not alive. Some stuff I did in the 80s, getting closer. Like, almost there. There it is. Like, yeah. Now
I
Owen's
think-
here. So.
I think this is a great series, Eric, because I think when you do all the reading and you don't actually talk to the person involved, you don't get a real perspective of who that person is.
Right.
And I think this history of Herp, you're talking to Richard Ross and you're talking, to all these guys that you just kind of know the stories, but you don't really get to know that person. So I think this is a great series you guys are doing.
And that's the thing, like, we've known of Tom Crutchfield since we started. And of course you hear everything that goes on and all this other stuff, but all that stuff is either second or third hand at best.
Right.
To actually sit down and talk with the guy, it's like everything just kind of comes around, and you kind of understand where he's coming from and how he got into Herp, the culture, and what it was like. It's like almost Wild West days and stuff back then. It was like, Jesus. So, and it kind of brings everything full circle. And it's weird because everybody will have an opinion on Tom Crutchfield and various other people in Herp history, having never met the man.
Yeah. And I look at the message today. That's what's important to me, is the message today.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I really, I don't know if it's just aligning with like where I'm at as a keeper now, but like
You're very Zen Eric Buddha thing, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just field herping has ruined me. I say it all the time.
Yeah, I blame Rob Stone. He destroyed you. Rob Stone saw you with your peak breeding season. Like, I gotta fix the shit out of this.
I gotta break
Australia, and you broke.
Yeah.
Like, and it was done. Yeah. I'm too.
I don't think I was ever that.
Shakes
though.
my head. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't. I don't think I was ever that. I'm more.
The problem is,
I just thought that's sort of the road you have to go.
Exactly.
But I think also, Eric, when you go on these Herp trips with kindred souls,
right,
you realize your thoughts are not the unusual ones.
Only one? Yes.
Yeah. I'm not the only crazy guy here. But
I was going to say that. Yeah, I was going to say that, like, when we go on these trips, right, we're spending pretty much a week together, right? Gives us a lot of time to sort of, like, really get to know each other and talk about things and, like,
all the real truth stuff happens at 3 a.m.
Into subjects and stuff, you know what I mean? But, like, I mean, gosh, Keith and Rob and, everybody that have been on Herp trips with Justin and, Matt and you, Owen, and,
I've said this numerous times. I was afraid of Keith McPeak when we were going to Australia, because I had only had like 2 conversations with him, and he was like a heavyweight. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say to Keith. And so
I feel like I'm super lucky that I have the quality over quantity type of people in my life. You know what I mean?
But you're exactly correct. It was like I fell into it, and then I think you did, but then you kind of went a different route of, this is what you do when you want to start keeping reptiles. You buy this, you buy this, you buy this, you do this. Oh, you're going to breed now? Well, now you have to it's almost like now you must unlock the breeder package, where you have to get acrylic displays, you have to get this tablecloth, and you have to go and do this. And it's like that's just the way it is. But then people now are starting to figure out that you can break that mold and not be considered like weird. Like, you can still do this and enjoy your animals, but you don't have to conform yourself to being that breeder of reptiles mold. I mean, Keith did it. He ditched all his stuff, and now he's got. I mean, your collection now, Keith, is nowhere near the size that you had previously, right?
Right. I just have a very eclectic collection right now, and
it is all over the place.
And I get to pick and choose what I want to work with for that year, and I'm doing it for me, and and that's it.
But then other people are like, "Have you seen Keith Pete's blackheads? They're gorgeous." I'm like, "Yeah," because Keith took his time and he went, "I want blackheads. I want those blackheads. I don't want a blackhead. I want those," and did it. And it's like,
where are you more happier, Keith? Yeah. Where, I mean, like,
I am way more happy now than I was. It was exciting times when I was chasing the morph and breeding the bloods and had the collection and knew those animals inside and out and everything else. But I lost myself. That's not what I'm in the animals for. I'm in the animals for what I am right now, like just laying on the floor looking in a Bolin's cage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's what Tom was trying to convey with a lot of his stuff too. Is like he chased those morphs and stuff to an extreme, but now he's like, now I just want to relax and like check out my croc monitors as they wander around my farm. Like it's
I can relate so much to that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, the chase of the morph. I felt that, like, in order to be somebody in the hobby, I had to have, the cutting edge stuff, and like I had to have the newest morph of carpet python, and it never worked out to where I made money from it. I was terrible at it because, by the, I wasn't one of those guys that was going to like power feed to get them to a certain age to be the first one to come to the that whole game. I don't know. I look at the reptile world and I kind of see like there's two different camps, right? There's like this camp of people that look at it like, well, for instance, I think we've been talking this behind the scenes, but like, I listen to other reptile podcasts, and like when I listen to them talk, they never talk about like natural history or like crazy observations that they've had. It's all about like, I don't know. It's almost like it's not even about the animal. Like the animal is an extra thing. And I don't even know, like, even when I did it back in the day, right? I mean, we did it too, Owen. It's not we haven't done it before, but like, I feel like when I look at that, I'm like, wow, that's.
But the problem is that you should be, you can and should and are able to wear many different hats. I love the natural history, and I love, like, my Timor pythons are one of the most gorgeous pythons on the planet that would say, dare I say it, in front of Keith McPeak, rival a bull and I. So,
how dare you?
I'm just brave enough to say it. So,
listen to me, you're going to get a slap.
but to have that, and then people be like, but imagine it as an Xanac. I don't want to. Like, please don't. Please no. It's like you take away from it. Now, I'll admit there's some morphs that are absolutely gorgeous.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I don't care about certain things. Like I don't know. You have to be able to plug in. And what you were talking about with Tom and what we said with Tom is like you learn the most by going there. Even if you don't find the animal, plug in and learn from it. And
me and Rob were having this conversation about humidity, right? And humidity with carpet pythons in particular. And we really had, it was like a 2-hour conversation that we were having. But I was talking to him about how, like, before, I don't know if carpet pythons actually needed humidity to survive, but does it make them more comfortable, or does it open up or not? I don't know. I'm probably going to be anthropomorphizing this, but like the thinking of like during the winter, right, here on the East Coast, right? Because basically we're like Australia, but flipped, right? Think about it, right? Yeah. This is something that Rob said, and it was like, blew my mind, right? We're on the East Coast here. We're like the East Coast of Australia, but flipped around, right? Because our diamond python territory would be up towards Maine, which is cold, and then the Cape York section would be down by Florida, right? Yes. So here on the East Coast, we have all this humidity, and it's way different than, what a Brettles python would be. So although you can keep them the same, right? You can keep them the same, because I've been arguing this for a couple of years that not all carpets should be kept the same, right? Because they're not from all the same environments, right? So if you get, like, yes, you're going to have a Brettles python that's going to be able to get into these microhabitats where, these, inside trees and stuff like that, to where they're going to get that humidity, but they also are exposed to that heat.
Right.
And that sun. And, it's just a different environment than Cairns. It's just different.
Right.
Well, Eric, look at the difference from Brisbane to Darwin. Like, I had a 100%. Totally different feel in Brisbane than I did in Darwin. 100% different.
And I believe that that's why jungles and coastals are so successful in our little neck of the woods, right? It's like this group of carpet pythons.
But you have to push a little bit further,
right?
For breadlife,
because we would be right where Brisbane is at. Well, not exactly, but you know what I'm saying. Like we're sort of like we're a little bit above the cold, like a little bit below the cold.
We're
part,
exactly where Brisbane would be. Exactly, and I will stand by that.
Never
100%.
Exactly.
Prove me wrong, damn it.
Yeah. But I just think that, like, I never even thought about that. Like, the idea that why are jungle carpets and coastal carpets so popular here in particular, right? To where we have just, like, we just knock it out. We don't even think about it. We breed it without even thinking about it, right?
Yeah, to be honest, I am not thinking about it, yeah.
Exactly. But with those, you know, I bet you Imbricata would be the same way. They're in a freaking desert. You know what I mean? So like Rob would probably be in a position where he would be able to breed those Imbricata without even thinking.
But then like, so we have to do extra for the bredli and other spring breeders because we're not in that point. Yeah.
I haven't like really thought this out 100%, but I don't know. It just that's the kind of conversations I'm talking about, that like I never would even think about that, you know, if I'm worried about, you know, well, what does an Xanax zebra jag look like? You know,
looks like that. No one cares. Next, it's
yeah.
What was really funny is that I saw somebody post something asking who in the U.S. was working on snow projects for carpet pythons, and it took me a minute because I'm like, it's been done, but then I'm sitting here and I'm like, it's been done. Has it been done? It's been done. Who the hell is working on that? Because it's like, well, I know it's been done, but when we started, you had Paul, you had Ollie, you had, you know, and they were the ones who were working on the new stuff. And then you had their disciples in, you know, the U.S. that would get their stuff or potentially work on it. You hear about this person that was gonna cross these things and they were going to be
incredible. It's exciting.
Right.
You know?
but that stuff has died out. It's like, all right, well, who is working on snows? Would Nick work on snows? Like, I don't.
No, I have a pair of double hets.
You've had that pair of double hets for forever.
Forever.
Yeah, they're like 20
Why haven't I
years
bred them?
old.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know if I have a desire to do it. I don't know.
There's like, I have a pair of albino bowling eye. Why? I don't know.
I don't know.
Am I ever going to breed them? Nah. They're just kind of over there. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, like I said in that one behind the scene group that we have there is like there's people like I'm going to say Vin Russo and Nick for that matter that love the snake and happen to breed morphs. Those are the people I respect. I don't respect the people that are breeding morphs but could care less if it's on a ball python, a retic, a corn snake, or what it is. They're just after that morph. I respect the people that love the snake and just happen to like to breed morphs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, me neither.
And I respect that because I know all the work that goes into it. But at least that person still loves the snake for what the snake is and would keep the snake. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of sad when you hear people talk about, like, oh, I do ball pythons. And then they're like, in the same breath, like, I hate these fucking snakes. It's like, what?
That doesn't make any sense to me.
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Wait,
then why do you
sense to me years ago when some guy's like, you think I want to breed these bearded dragons? Fuck no, I want to do emerald tree boas, but there's no money in that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
see, for me, ball pythons have this like nostalgia that no other python has, and because when I was younger, to me it was all you ever saw really was, and again, I'm a kid, so it's not like I really have this great perspective of everything, or even understand all the. I didn't even know what species there were, except for that it's that Pythons and Boas book by, I think Strafford wrote it, and like I studied that book, like back of it's got a big blood python on the back. I was like, whoa, I will never have one of these. This is amazing, you know. You know, it was all about like the Burmese pythons, and like I remember my dad took me to see this guy, one of his police partners or something, had this retic that he kept in the basement, and you know I went to see it, and I'm just like, holy shit, one of them big huge mainland retics, and you're just like, holy crap!
This is a
that
wild
thing is
caught
huge.
one, so it's pissed off.
Oh my God, it's ready to kill you. You know,
One
just
eye.
the whole deal. And but you never saw a ball python. And there was this pet shop that was around the corner from me, and I would go there, and they had this ball python. And to me, I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect because it's a python, but it's like small, like, you know, and like, I don't know. I just remember staring at, I used to stare at that cage forever, just like staring at this snake with the green, it had the green mat and the tan blue inside crock bowl and
okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like
reptile
setup.
Uh-huh. It was on AstroTurf.
The AstroTurf green reptile carpet or whatever it was called.
God.
You know, but yeah, I don't know. So they've always been that species that's been very nostalgic for me. And I remember, like when I was a kid, there was Matt would probably remember this place. It was on Rising Sun Avenue, and it was called, I think it was called Pets and Things or something like that. But they got this.
Yeah.
I wanted a ball python, and I wanted and my dad's like, okay, let's go see what they got. So I called up the place, and they said, yeah, we just got the shipment in. And I remember going there, and they had this. I mean, it had to be maybe 10 by 10. This freaking wooden crate.
Yes, I only know because I've seen them. I've seen them in Hamburg because they'll pop them open and be like, pick your tortoise. And I'm like, wait, please stop.
It's just filled with ball pythons. And I remember my dad saying to me, he says, I see this gold one, right? And I'm like, I'm just infatuated with this gold one. Who knows? There's probably some kind of morph of some sort.
That was the origin of the pastel. Yeah.
But it wasn't like that. There was like darker ones and there was gold ones. We
could have the facility now if you pick the right goddamn ball python.
So I'm picking this one up, and I'm telling the guy in the pet shop, I'm like, yeah, this is the one I want. This is the one I want. My dad's like, no. You want this one? And I'm like, no, I don't, Dad. He's like, promise you want this one.
Shut up.
So I go, okay. And I take it. Well, here there was two of them entwined together in a ball. So I got two ball pythons for,
This is what they call it. Buy one, get one free. So
I come out of the reptile shop, and he's like, go ahead, open the bag. And I open the bag. He's like, there's two of them in there. He's like, you got two now. And I'm like, woohoo. But yeah, I don't know. So it's like those memories I have of me and my dad in those days are, it's just very nostalgic for me. But
I feel like, and that's
for ball pythons.
And I feel like that would be a fun thing to do, and that's the nostalgia of it. It's like, why do I still have Cali Kings? Is because that was my first snake, you know, and that was my first intro, and I will continue to breed and keep Cali Kings. Am I going to spend a ridiculous amount of money on Joker morphs? So, no, I don't care. I just want the Cali King. So
like I just want a normal ball python, just a normal one, and like one day I'll have one.
Yeah, exactly. They give you $5 for Cobra food, maybe.
Yeah.
You have been
I got
chosen.
$25.
You will
live. Have one? But yeah, I don't know. I just feel bad for that species in particular because at the same time they're so popular and
Keith,
and at the same time they're so hated. It's like crazy.
Keith, do you think the ball python market may be crashing?
Oh, geez, I have no idea.
Keith,
I don't think that could ever go away.
Here, tell me yes or no. Like, hey.
I think,
what do you mean?
I think the prices could come down for a while, for sure, and maybe weed out a lot of the people that aren't really in it for the long haul. But
yeah, I don't know. I was talking to Melissa yesterday about the was it 45,000? Like how many ball pythons are on Morph Market again? Yeah. Was that Eric the 45,000 or whatever?
I think it was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I'm like, that is a ridiculous number in my mind. I kept trying to wrap my head around it.
The problem, not the problem, but maybe it is a problem with ball pythons is that they're so mainstream that like somebody that's going to go buy a Coke at the store will buy a ball python too. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a reptile person. So the market is huge. You know what I mean? True. So those 45,000 are really nothing in the States.
And I like what Tom said about that too, is like we asked him about disappearing things from herpetoculture. It's like it depends on the animals. So like where there seems to be a lot of ball pythons for sale. It seems like there's there's a ton of ball python breeders and there's a ton of people producing a ton of animals, even though these animals have small clutches. But I almost feel like the next thing after that would be that there's probably going to be soon a ton of retics available.
46,000.
Jesus Christ. So,
yeah,
and I know we've talked about it with this kind of recession thing, and depending on how people are going to keep certain animals, or the amount of animals that they have, or it's almost like it's going to be harder for people to sell certain things. Are we going to see more ball pythons for sale, or more animals for sale for that matter? And also, it almost seems like with the amount of eggs that a retic can lay, like how many retics do we have to have run around this country that need homes?
Yeah.
That's,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It almost seems like part of it is we're trying very hard to show ourselves as responsible keepers and breeders of reptiles on one hand, and the other hand, we're like, let's produce 50,000 of something and see what happens.
This is exactly why I haven't produced Bolins yet. I just don't want too many of them in the market.
You're right. That's Keith's
Good
like,
play,
no,
Keith.
no,
Good play.
no. You two can cuddle, but I'm holding your tails. Like it's.
I do want to get your thoughts on this, and then we could probably finish out. But like, so Keith, I watched this video, and was of the timber rattlesnake, right? And this guy, oh my God, I'll have to send you the link to his page, because he does all this natural history. Did I talk to you about this? No, I think I talked to you, Owen, but not you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know you get us confused. We both have the,
yeah.
I gotta grow a beard.
I have the only way you can tell us apart. If I ever shave all of this, he's not going to know which one of us is which. Yeah.
So yeah, right. So, the timber rattlesnakes head back up to their hibernaculums, right? Nacula. Oh, sorry, hibernacula, right? So they head back up there, and one of the observations this guy noticed was that the females would come out and bask belly up in the UV before they would go into hibernation. And I was thinking about that, and I'm thinking like, I know you guys have done UV and all that. You've tried those things, and like I know that you were trying to mimic the clouds, as so giving it to a certain amount a day. But like, do you think that so they're going up? This is October where he's looking at it, right? So, and this was in New York, right? So getting cold. It's not cold, but it's cold at night, right? At this point, do you think that like they're going in, possibly, they could be pregnant at that point and then come out in the springtime and have their babies? Or do you think that, have you ever tried like doing that before the breeding season would start? Like say in the summertime, where you would allow the female to sort of bask in UV? Like when did you give the UV? Was it during the breeding season or all the time?
Yeah, they have UV all the time.
All the time. Okay.
Okay. Well, that's not true. So what I do is right now is I have LED lights in the cage that are their ambient lighting. And then I have their basking spots, which is a UVB bulb. I have that come on a timer throughout the day. And I give them an hour duration at a time, and then maybe 2 hours off, then an hour and a half on, then 2 hours off. So throughout the day, that UV is coming on and off, kind of replicating more of, because what snake's going to stand there basking all day long in the wild, right? It's not going to expose itself and be out on that ledge for 12 hours a day. So that's what I've been generally doing to them. And I mean, right now I'm just trying to keep everybody healthy, let them settle into the routine I've given them. I feel like I've gotten to the spot where I have the coolness that I need as my background, but I have the basking that they need to stay above that. And I'm going with the flow now, Eric.
Right. Jesus take the wheel type of vibe.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I don't think I would have gotten to the understanding I have on the species right now and maintaining it the way I'm maintaining it if I didn't go through all the stuff I was going through and experiment with these low nighttime temps and the bigger darkness period and all these other things. I think I've finally settled into the balance that in my head is what it's going to take to get them there. So now it's for them to cycle into what I've given them. And I'm not changing anything at this point. I feel like all those trials got me to where I am now, and now I'm letting them do their thing. You know
Do
what I
their
mean?
thing. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. That species just fascinates me. Like,
Oh no, it started. Now Eric's going to get rid of everything he gets.
No.
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 He's hit that.
I
port
could be
of his herping
fascinated by a
career.
species and not keep it. I can't
It's all right.
breed
It's-
Paul.
listen,
If
we're all
Keith can't
spinning our
breed Paul
wheels
and I,
until-
how the hell am I going to do it, Owen?
Dude, I wish we were closer and you could just come and go in the basement and sit and watch them for a while.
Observe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Have you
it's all right.
noticed any other like observations that have about them in particular that have kind of like?
Well, this is the
You're-
first year. This is the first year where I've just kept the pair together, and at the right times they've started breeding on their own. Got somebody here for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
How you doing, baby?
Keith, you have a weird chicken.
He has a mohawk.
I love him. He's a gorgeous
so cool.
bird.
He is.
Yeah.
He's really cool.
And you know, the best part is that Keith has to deal with all the wonderful things that macaws and cockatoos bring, like screaming at the top of their lungs. Like, yeah,
You know what's really cool with this thing, though, Owen, is that they don't have any of those parrot vocalizations. They have like a click and a whistle that they do, and it's not it's not obnoxious at all. And he only does it if he wants a little attention. Like, it's not just a constant like a macaw, you know.
Yeah.
He does it when he wants to be with his flock. Otherwise,
That's
he's
cool.
like this. He's like this all the time.
That's cool.
Wow.
Thanks, T.
Tom's not on anymore. Anyway, so this is the first year that I've seen the pair stimulated on their own for the male to court aggressively and copulate with the female, and the female not bouncing and flicking and trying to get the male off of her. So what I'm saying is, in the past, I've had to like rotate my males or do something extravagant to initiate that courtship. Where this year they've come into a cycle on their own where there was some heavy breeding for like 2 weeks. I always saw the male all over her, and that's from just leaving them together, like Tom's saying, year round. She came into whatever cycle turned that male on. A lot of people are saying it's the storm that went through, but I'm seeing it every day. I know what the difference was. You know, there was a difference there where that female was giving him the cues and he was all over it and she was receptive to it. So that's the first time I have seen that this year. I've been trying since 2013, so it's an advancement for me. Yeah.
Okay.
So 2013 is when you first tried to breed them? Is that when it was?
It's none of the things. It's none of the crap of putting them together. It's because he got a tattoo. Okay, it's the only reason. If he hadn't done
That's
it,
awesome.
they would have been staring at each other like they do every year. Yeah,
I'm getting a Sanzinia here on the 11th of February, and then a blood python's going here. So I'm going to have the bowl and blood and Sanzinia.
just keep getting all the ones until they start breeding. It's like, hey, see, look, there's you. Do it.
Yeah, but didn't you've bred Sanzinia? I think you were talking to yeah. You're sort of who were I think while I was listening to the Bo podcast and
Well, Tracy, like I say, Tracy,
yeah.
Well, Tracy Barker and Eugene Bissett both said I was the first private person to breed him. I don't know if that's true or not. It was coming from a good source, so I just kind of like pin that badge on every once in a while.
Nice.
Yeah, whatever.
Nice.
I mean, Eugene literally got on the floor at Daytona when I brought, because you didn't have the internet or nothing then, right? So I just put them all in this clear big deli cup, And I walked up to Eugene Bissett and I handed him the deli cup, and he looked down at it. He looked up at me. He handed it back to me. He got on the floor and he started bowing. And if you know Eugene Bissett, like I literally didn't know what to do.
He's like, well, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Sanzini are in that book. The what the hell? The one we were looking, the one that we were talking
trees?
about. Yeah, they talk about Sanzini and stuff like that in there. So
yeah, that's a really cool book. That's really cool. Oh, Sanzinia now for you, Owen?
Listen, Sanzinia had been in my head since I got those ugly,
such a
brown
unique
ones
looking
from Matt
species, you know?
Minatola. Yeah, that guy. So
yeah. Yeah. I like the ground boas. I like the Madagascar ground boas. That's the ones I like. Because they're cool. I don't know. Why do we like what we like? Who knows? I don't know.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm like, Argentines, and then God help me if Keith McPeak ever breeds his Hog Island boas.
Listen, right now my Argentine is like this right now.
Good.
Yeah.
I keep trying to get them, and things keep happening.
Yeah. Well, if I do good.
What are you getting rid of coastal carpets now? They're going, Owen?
No,
so
never.
You can make room for.
I'll never get rid of coastals. Jungles out. But it's like, listen, you know, I was thinking about that again today. It's like if I have captive born and bred gold-faced white lips that need cages, I'm sorry, Darwin carpets. Like, get out. So,
Darwin carpets, I'll take.
Yeah, it would be sending that caramel head albino right back to you. Like
that one I don't want.
Yeah,
that you can keep that one. Sell it, whatever you want to do. I don't.
It's. But again, like we talked about it, I know enough people now that are doing carpet pythons and other things that potentially there would just be a lot more breed loans. Like it would just, yeah. I'll figure it out. That's future Owen's problem.
Yeah, future Owen's problem.
Yep.
All right. Very good.
Cool.
Thanks, Keith, for hooking this up.
For chaperoning us. Yeah. Making sure we didn't get into trouble. Yeah.
Who should we get next? Who should be the next Herp history guy?
Yeah, Keith, who's next?
We should probably circle back with Eugene, no? You know?
That would be
fun. We haven't talked about him since.
That would be fun.
We haven't talked Trump Power.
Greg, I don't think we've ever actually spoken with Greg.
Bob Applegate, Captain Love.
That'd be fun.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I rely on Keith and Rob to tell me.
Keith and Rob.
I mean, I know the names, but
Dick Bartlett.
Listen, they're the grinders. We're just the monkeys. All right, you know. To be honest.
Oh, very good. All right. Well, much apprecited. And why don't you throw your info out there, Keith, if you want to? Just
you're here.
Just if you want to chat, just find me on Facebook. Just friend request me or send me a private message. And yeah, man, always ready to talk snakes.
All right. And for us, please go check out all the shows on the network. There are many. You can also follow MPR Network on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, MPR Network for everything that you need. There's also the Teespring store where you can get MPR, Carpet Fest, Carpets and Coffee, and all the shows on the network's gear, magnets, stickers, everything there. Also, go check out Cold Blooded Caffeine Co. For the two things you absolutely love, which are reptiles and coffee. There's also the Morelia Python Radio Blend. $1 of every bag sold is donated to wildlife conservation in coffee-producing countries. They have amazing coffee. Eric and I drink it pretty much exclusively at this point. So that's Cold-Blooded Caffeine. There's the referral link, and please use code MPR to get a 10% discount off your order. That's code MPR. There's also, if you have any questions, show suggestions, or anything you want to see, please email us at info@MoreliaPythonRadio.com. Also, go join the Patreon to get updated on all the Patreon streams and when we have those live shows. Also, you can go and like MPR on YouTube, and you'll be alerted to when we have new episodes as well as live streams. That's all we have for you guys tonight. So we'll say thank you all for listening, and tune in next week for some more Morelia Python Radio. Good night.